Hello everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be continuing through our Imperium page through with issue number 17. And Imperium's pretty much the weekly magazine, well was the weekly magazine, for the Warhammer 40,000 setting. Now as for issue 17, it did come out back in the probably last half of 2022. So getting straight into it, on the front we have a nice image of a Ultramarine. I'm not even going to try and hazard a guess as to what type of marine it is, other than it is an Ultramarine with a shield and a sword, obviously. In terms of this issue, we will actually get a second instance of the Minotaurum armored container. I can't remember which issue had one previously, it would have been maybe 13 or 14. So we'll get another case of that, so we'll look at that quickly. Otherwise, in terms of the issue, a bit more information about Necrons, some battlefield terrain, and some info about the psychic phase. Hopefully this issue will stay together a bit better than the previous one. Contents, so Ultramarines, and then in terms of the story side, so we have some general forces information, which I suspect is probably Necrons given the little iconography, Wards of the Imperium, some information of the Necron dynasties, the Minotaurum container, both how to assemble and paint, and then secure the drop site as the playthrough. Okay, Ultramarines, injuries and grudges, so I guess how to basically give them a bit more of a thematic story with some grudge generator tables, which is kind of cool. Does remind me of the old veteran Tyranid hunters, who I believe are now part of the legacy range. And then just some more information about that on the other side. And then we've got like an injury table and a injury and losses table. Once again, very much more for your thematic styles. As for the stories, so the outcasts for the Necrons, so I'm guessing it's going through some different Necron units that are probably outside the norm. Flayed ones is a good example, and we did have some flayed ones included a few issues ago. Then we have the destroyers of the Scorpec variety, the Locust variety, and then there's some other types of destroyers. Very nice, definitely a lot of destroyers across the board these days compared to when I first saw the Necrons back in the 90s. Going through some store information regarding the worlds of the Imperium. And then the types of worlds, so we have hive worlds, feudal, feral, and things like that. Feudal, well, that's a feudal knight. And then just some more little story blurbs here. How to build the armed container. Now this isn't the first time we've seen it, so I won't spend too much time on this. And then how to paint. This may actually go into some different effects that weren't covered in the first instance of the armed container. Some of them do look a little bit different. So we've got dry brushing, stippling, things like that. It does feel different from what I recall, but it was a few weeks ago when we first looked at the first instance of the armored container. That does look very cool with the finalized paintwork. And not too difficult. Now, as for the playthrough, what do we have here? Secure the drop site, so Librarian and Phobos armor. So that was a mini we received many issues ago now, in the grand scheme of things. In terms of units, what do we have? Necron warriors, a Librarian, different terrain now. So we have a few Minotaurum containers, crates and barrels. There appears to be some flayed ones in reserve. That's kind of scary. Single librarian versus all of them. Rules and data sheets that will be applicable for this particular playthrough. So obviously the librarian being the main data sheet, and then the psychic phase, which I don't think was covered too much in the previous issue when I was going through the various phases. Space Marines will have the first move, followed by a psychic phase. Necrons will then actually get to go into a turn move as well, and surprisingly they do not too badly. They do cause some damage. The flayed ones also make themselves known. The Librarian, so the Space Marines, also go into another turn, once again doing some movement and some psychic abilities. It does appear that he also suffered a Perils of the Warp D3 test fail. And then we have the flayed ones coming in. And then lastly, we will pretty much go through a charge phase. So the Librarian will actually charge into the flayed ones. Good on you, Librarian. I thought it was going to be very one-sided, but apparently not. Librarian's done quite well. Obviously, it's just a playthrough, so it's probably been swayed somewhat. Obviously, the usual last page regarding the Imperium magazine. And then on the very back, we have the coming soon, issue 18 we've already looked at, thanks to the previous issues. So we know about the Technomancer, the information about the Drukhari, and the double-sided battle map that will be included with that one. And then lastly, for issue 19, we get another container. Now this should be the third and last container. Reason being, I think the actual terrain set itself, if you buy through retail, does only contain 3 of them. So yes, we'll have another instance of those to make 3, and then probably some more ways on how to paint and use them, and then using grenades, which I always feel keep getting missed out. So that'll be issue 19 in 2 walkthroughs time. So that was the bulk of issue 17. Now, before we look at everything else, there was a nice little insert for the Necron dynasties. So this pretty much would go straight into the folder. So we've got 2 dynasties there. I'm not even going to try and pronounce them. Here's another dynasty, and then we have information about the cryptex and canoptic constructs. So there are definitely a lot more units for the Necrons these days than there were when I first saw them. Some more dynasties here on the back. And obviously dynasties these days just tend to be represented by different paint schemes. And then we just have some more information here about the awakening of the Necron Empire, and a bit of a cosmic map? Either way, universe map, maybe universe, map of where, I guess, where various dynasties reside in the grand scheme of things. Now, it is very Necron themed, so it's hard to say where a lot of this would overlay against general universal imperial mapping in areas. Although in saying that, Eye of Terror is there, so I'd imagine... Oh, Terra and Mars are here, so Segmentum Solar I believe is here. This should probably be the Eastern Fringes. I cannot remember what this piece of space is, it's been a while, but there you go. So it's nice to have some of these lore pieces, especially with some of these inserts. So that is that in fact, since I didn't really cover it before. Just a quick look at some of these dynasties and their different colours. Now not all of them did. I'm guessing this is pretty much your standard Necron colour scheme. And then we have another scheme up here. So that was that little insert. Once again, that's mainly for the binder. And then lastly, in terms of the actual hobby materials, here is another sprue of the Minotaurum Armoured Canister. So pretty much exactly the same as we saw a few issues ago, and as we saw on the back of this issue, we will get another one of these in 2 issues time. Well, so I already have it, but we'll actually get it out of its plastic in 2 episodes time. Issues, videos, whatever. It's very episodic, this series. Okay, so that pretty much brings us to the end of the look-through of issue 17 of Imperium. Very terrain focused this particular issue, which isn't too bad. Can't always keep getting pieces for the 2 armies, although I think in a few issues time we will be switching into Not so much for the Necrons, but at least for the Imperium forces, I think we start looking at... I do believe there are some sister units at some point, and I think there might be some... It's the old school Imperial Guard. I can't remember, the Astra Militarum, I think is their new designation. Either way, there will definitely be more minis coming up as we go through, especially once we get into the 20s. Leaving it there, so thank you very much for watching the video. Feel free to do the usual like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. It does help support the channel, and I do appreciate it. I am improving my 40k stuff on my Instagram account. Otherwise, there's also stuff appearing on the YouTube community as well. It's been very 40k centric as of this recording, just because there's been a few things happening, and it's just been easy just to stay 40k themed. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in next week's page through of issue 18, possibly something else 40k related, or just something else on the channel. See ya.